there is. Hannah, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Melanie. Pleasure to be here.
It is great to bring you onto the show and to have you on the podcast. Hannah, you're in Atlanta. What is happening
Mhm.
in your world right now?
Well, the season's changing, so we're starting to get the glimpses of summer. We are known for hot Atlanta. So, yeah, we're getting ready for that, the hot Atlanta. We're also getting ready to receive a lot of visitors here. Just mentioning like we have the FIFA World Cup is going to be here next month. So there's a lot of excitement going around. There's a lot of things with entrepreneurship and marketplace and headquarters. So it's been fun. It's fun seeing the business community mobilize and also just the people ready to receive the world coming over here in a bit.
That's exciting, connecting with people from everywhere. So you're getting people coming over to your area from anywhere in the world. But
Yes.
what's happening with you right now? And the question I normally ask, I'll start with the question I always ask my guests. How do you explain to everybody what exactly you do?
Ooh, okay. That's always a hard one because people don't really understand. Like, well, what do you do? What do you do? But what's going on with me? I also get ready to receive people and I be traveling. I'm actually getting ready to go internationally to go speak at a conference in Canada. So it will be one of my first times going there. And I'm embracing, I don't know how cold it is, but I hear some things that it might be a bit colder than our hot Atlanta. So I'm embracing for that. I'm not a fan of cold. So, but I
Okay.
hope the people will keep me warm the hospitality. So I'm looking for that. But getting ready for it, as far as like what I'm doing, getting continuing to expand. And for what I do with HEARTnomics, really the simplest way I can say it is transformation through love and excellence. And it is for those leaders, the people that don't just want to do the thing, but want to do the right thing and do it right. So that means it's going to take understanding what right is for you, that purpose, doing it right, doing it right for the people, the ethics that go along with that, the values that go with it, as well, the ones that we live by, but also the alignment with not only the people, the purpose, but really the performance. Because we're doing something, right? That's the part. We want to be able to do something and do something together. So that's what I do. I'll bring in that alignment with people, purpose, and performance as well.
The performance, is that about the results or how people are showing up?
Well, the results are going to be in line with how people are showing up. But I also understand that a lot of people say whatever it takes, right? So that maybe people would do the whatever it takes. But the question also that comes up with that is the sustainability. So when you're talking about sustainability, there are those short terms and the long term goals, right? And what I'm seeing again and again is that it, a lot of the short terms end up being long terms, and it's not sustainable, and it's coming at a very high cost in health. Is coming at a cost, and even in the health of our teams, the cultures that we have, and then really, in a sense, wanting to dismiss our humanity, the very humanity that brings us together, as far as like knowing the empathy, being able to hang out with each other, really enjoying life. And that is one of the main things that really the alignment is able to help bring to you, where you have that fulfillment and not reduce the cost, still do the thing, still perform, but don't let it take everything.
Absolutely. Are you talking about burnout?
Yes, 100%. It is that burnout. I came close to that, actually feeling the burnout. And it was when I had an interesting event. I had been the recipient of a innovative heart surgery, and I received a call from the Children's Health Hospital because they wanted to do a 20-year reunion from the surgery. Now, I didn't know the impact because I was a kid. That surgery happened when I was 14, and when I'm going there, I'm listening. I got to go with the doctor. I got to see the nurse that admitted me there, my actual nurse. Got to go into the place, and in all that, the interview is asking me, well, what was I feeling? The symptoms, what were you going through? What was the relief that I got from the surgery? And I remember explaining all the things. And then as I reflected back, I realized, oh my gosh, I'm kind of feeling that now. But this time, I don't have heart disease anymore. I mean, we're actually talking about the cure, which it did work and it wasn't lethal. So the difference at that moment and what came as an aha moment to me as I'm going through, in a sense, getting a lesson from the past, is that you can definitely experience the symptoms of heart disease because having been a patient with a severe heart problem, I was feeling the same symptoms and I did not realize it came from exhaustion and burnout. So that was a wake up moment for me, in essence, like the very cure that came to that we were looking at the heart ablation as we were reliving everything was also a Hannah, let's take a look. What's going on here? Because some things are sounding a little bit familiar. The burnout is something that we a lot of times we like, oh, it'll get better, or we're gonna wait until next time, or this can wait. Um, and it's something that definitely sneaks up on you. And next thing you know, you're just tired and exhausted. And then we live by energy drinks, coffee. Maybe we might even start going and getting some other things. So it's definitely a problem. 77% of professionals do experience burnout. And what does that burnout do for leaders? It means also they're not able to make the decisions that we're counting on leaders to make. Actually, 56% of leaders say they're not confident in decision making. The reason being they're too tired, they're burned out.
The exhaustion, it is so real. And this is resonating so much with me because growing this podcast, I can share with you that the show started in August last year and
Mm.
it takes effort. You're starting something new. I'm curious to know, have you seen anyone creating something new and not getting burned out? Or is it a side effect of those early days, but something that we don't have to maintain forever, the burnout?
Absolutely. I mean, anything at the beginning, you're going to be in the survival mode. I mean, you're getting something started is new. I mean, if you look at a newborn, right? Like they need extra care. The problem is when you're starting even like something new, it's not having that extra care readily available. So you have to give yourself that extra care in those times. I think one of the things that gets exhausting about stuff is just not knowing when is this going to end or when is a milestone that I know, oh, I can slow down at this point. And it's a lot of times our own ambition in a sense, or like not knowing what even enough is enough, or what level, or how do I know I am at capacity? How do I know I am at my top? Or is this a will problem or is it a capability problem? Maybe I don't have the skill. A lot of times when we are starting something new, it's not just implementing the skills that we have. There's a lot of stuff that we don't know that until you start implementing, you realize, oh, now I need to know. So there's quite a bit of skill acquisition that's happening at the same time as execution of what you do know. And that is a part where it gets exhausting in a sense. Again, if you're doing it by yourself, the blind spots will remain longer. They'll linger way longer, which is where the tendency to stay in that survival happens for the longer period of times. So I would say yes, it's when anything worth anything is uphill. It just is. I mean, if it was easy, if it was not going to require hard work, then everyone will be doing it, and not everybody's doing what's necessary, right? I mean, there's certain things, so it is going to take extra effort. The deal is when you're doing that extra effort, is that you also have to take care of the asset. And who's the asset? Right here. This is the main asset because if you're not healthy, you're not well, you cannot give what you don't have. You won't have the energy, you won't have the passion, you won't have the vision. That happens to us all. The key is to be aware and to recognize it and be able to have that leadership to not only listen to it, but act on it. That's where it really it comes in. you really are in control of really the things that you internally, but understanding that for anyone who's ever tried to do a plan, a lot of things happen that are unplanned and they're like take completely the floor from under you. And that's something that being aware that those are things that are going to happen, but also having the backup in people and things that you do to keep yourself well and giving it milestones in time. You got to have those.
Give it time.
Yes.
Yes. This is fascinating. It takes a phase early on when doing something new of putting extra energy in. One thing stood out to me in what you said in particular. One thing stood out. You said that we often don't know when the end point is for our extra energy that we have to invest. And
Hmm.
that's significant because from a marketing psychological perspective, we know that if people are waiting for something, if they know how long it's going to be, then they cope more. If they don't know how long it's going to be, then we don't cope.
Yeah.
So part of it could be that, and we keep holding on and holding on. But
Delayed hope. Yeah. Makes says
hold on
it,
to hope.
hope delayed makes a heart sick.
Do you think people get a bit addicted to the hustle anyway, though?
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, especially different types of personalities. I'm more addicted to the hustle than others. You had you've heard about A personalities, right? You've heard about also even communication. Someone who is very direct, who's very extroverted, is gonna be more into like, hey, do, very task oriented. And that goes back to like, hey, I feel well, I feel on purpose on that. But here's the deal. It's not only necessary to perform in the purpose, it's also just as necessary to receive the fulfillment from your purpose. And that is where people don't take the time, is in why sometimes we get stuck on this never ending wheel because we haven't learned to receive the fulfillment that comes from the purpose, from the activity that we not only what we do, but who we do it with and what we do it for.
That
That
is
is
what
what
everybody needs to hear. This is so crucial. I'm so glad you are saying this because we become martyrs or we become sacrificial. There's so much ideology behind wanting to give everything of ourselves until there's nothing left.
right.
But that there's nothing left, then how can we keep producing and creating? Can't.
I tried it. Doesn't work. I have 5 kids. So on top of being an entrepreneur, yeah, when it comes to motherhood, for those of you that, are parents or have had someone you've had to take care of, even a pet, it's not really not doing something for you. You're really constantly giving, even on your best days or all this stuff, you're gonna have worse days. It just feels at times exhausting, even for the very beings that you know that you're going to that you're a purpose in equipped to take care of. And that is why it's so necessary. I mean, that's it takes leadership to know yourself. It takes leadership to take time to get reacquainted with yourself. Seasons change, times change, everything. There's a lot of things you have learned this year, this since yesterday even. We're like an information age. And we do need to take a time to where we're sitting down, we're processing, we're looking at it, and we're seeing, well, what is relevant for me at this time? And that is that is huge. What I've seen a lot of people, really leaders, not taking the time to reflect and look into their purpose, and also in relation to what's going on right now. Where am I in my life? Because some things that where maybe the hustle was, and I'm telling you, yeah, when my kids were all little and they're 100% depending on me. It was hustle. I mean, I did what it took. I mean, I had to take care of them and make sure they were fed, and I could buy the food that would feed them. So yeah, there's a season for that. But again, it's a season, and knowing what season you're in is key.
know which season you are in. This is the lesson.
Mhm.
It's this is comforting because it's comforting because if someone is in that season, we know that there will be a time when it concludes and there'll be a time for a new season. What does receiving look like? Sorry, I'll pop the phone onto silent. I'm so sorry. I'm wondering what receiving looks like. We know that we need to give ourselves a bit of time and breathing space. But for founders, for anyone who is creating a business from scratch, anything like that, is there also a sense of return on investment where we can say, I have invested so much of my time, my energy, my focus, and now this has to get a return to be sustainable. Is that a part of it?
Yeah, 100%. So sometimes the way that you look at it is kind of like the frustrations. What's frustrating you now? And then just take a moment, even like, okay, what is the frustration that you have now versus the frustration you had maybe last year or frustration from 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Because sometimes we don't see our progress. But, like, we get, like, frustrated, like, for example, traffic, and it's, like, so bad, but you remember there was a time where you're frustrated because you weren't old enough to drive. So, I mean, you think about that is like, where am I in the season? So it's still a frustration, but look at where the frustration is coming in. It's like, hey, you get to drive now. You get to drive whenever you want. You get to go wherever you want. There was a time in your life where you couldn't. You depended on everybody else to drive you. And although you wanted it, there was nothing anybody could do because you weren't of age. So even in just being aware of those things, like, there's some things that right now, is like, like that driving. Yeah, I wanted this. I wanted this so bad, and now I'm so upset at the traffic. But listen, again, were you not believing for that car? Isn't that the fact that you get to have a car or that you get to have some sort of transportation system that you can jump on and be able to get somewhere? Those things. So I think in the receiving is seeing that, is even understanding in my frustrations. There was a time where I wished or I hoped that I would have this very thing that now is causing me some frustration, right? I think that goes along with owners and founders. Like now it's not just, hey, I remember the days when it just used to be me and maybe a volunteer, and now I have 25 people or 50 people. So now I have HR problems. I have many people that are getting their feelings hurt, and I have them in my office. Like, oh my gosh, that's where all my day went. But at the same time, it's also in the receiving is I get to have employees. Did I back 5 years ago was just me and this other person? Did I ever think I could even have more than one, more than two? Did I even think I could get paid when I follow this? So the receiving aspect is being aware of those steps. And we tend to easily forget. Which is also is a good thing, right? And forgiveness. I mean, that's why we can really forgive and then not really make it dictate our lives. And we forgive the bad things, but we also tend to forgive or dismiss the good things. In the sense, like dismissing is different than really being able to acknowledge. So I would say for those leaders, for the learning the art of receiving, it does take to pause. It does take even looking at that gratitude of, hey, even those things that are causing me some frustration now, my goodness, like, like, yeah, my kids sometimes frustrated me, but there was a time when all I could do was hope to have a kid. So, like that is one of the things. It's like under learning to receive where I am also in the season that I am. There is things that I'm receiving at this point that are really fulfilling. And if I don't take the time to understand what brings me joy, what brings me that peace, what brings me those moments of like, hey, like I just want to be able to not only sometimes take a breath, but also go take over the world. What are those moments? Um, Sometimes we get stuck in just knowing what's not right, but we really don't know what's well. In receiving is understanding really that what is well for me. And that also goes back to like, well, what is enough? I understand enough doesn't mean I have to settle. But what is it that I would say, what's a good job in? How do I know today was a win in that sense and can receive, even it wasn't perfect, but I made progress and celebrating that progress.
It's about being grateful for the problems that are actually beneficial. That that's amazing. I I know that we all need to be reminded of that because a lot of people are saying now that when you grow, you simply have bigger problems.
Oh,
But you think so?
no, no, no.
No?
I mean, like they're bigger problems in the sense that at the time compared to like, yeah, when my kids are fighting over a toy, it's like, oh, that's not a big deal, but it is a big deal to them. I mean, like that was like their whole thing. So I think, yeah, they're in a sense they're bigger, but it's because of the perspective, maybe the impact. But at the end of the day, when you're wherever you're at, it's gonna feel like when it's a problem to you, it's gonna feel like it's the end of the world to that, even on the stage. But um, yes, just like there's bigger problems and you can say that, there's also bigger rewards. There's bigger impact. And really the problems are opportunities, right? I mean, you think about it. They're really they're signals for a leader. That means like, "Hey, go." That's your signal to, "We need you." So it's a call out.
It's a call out. The problems are opportunities. Okay. Have you seen anyone being reluctant to scale or grow and needing encouragement to dive in, take the next step, maybe show up more publicly, maybe publish more? What do you say to those who have been finding excuses or reasons or justifications to stay minimal, stay small, and you know that they need to progress further?
Well, I think, I mean, it starts with them, right? I mean, like, if you're gonna find reasons to not to, you will find reasons to not to. And they're probably very valid reasons because they're valid reasons to you. So, whatever you work, works. That means you have to work it. It can be working in oh, to stay where you're at, or you can work it to get out of where you're at. There's pain, right? There's the pain of staying where you're at. There's the pain of getting out. Choose your pain. Either way, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt to say goodbye to those things that you maybe thought once you were going to accomplish. And now, for whatever reason, you feel you can't. And it's going to hurt to go after that dream, that very same dream, when maybe you have nobody on your side and it's just you in a dream and it's going to hurt. Either one is going to hurt. Choose your hurt, is what I would say. It's not going to hurt any less. So, if we're talking about we get one shot at this, one shot at life, right? I mean, that's one thing. Like, you can get everything else back. You can get time back. You can get things back. You can get all things back. What you cannot get back is your time. That is why so much value is put in your time. So, with the time that you have here, the time that you have been entrusted, the time that you have been given to do, and you're going to go through pain, which all we are, choose your pain. Just which one? That would say that will be one of those. And then the other part is, I mean, I can't help but recall, for example, like I said, I went through a very severe heart disease. And what did that look like? It meant from the age of 4. I wasn't able to breathe. It really felt like my head was being held underwater, not knowing when I was going to come out. So as a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, you can imagine not only the trauma of just breathing. We're talking about just vital part, and the pain that it would cause for my heart to beat. We all need our heart to beat. So couldn't be afraid or painful of the very thing I needed to be alive. And that was my childhood. That was my not only my childhood, but that was also my preteen years, all the way to my teenage years. I didn't know how long it was gonna last. I didn't know what triggered it. There was no specific trigger. There was a lot of uncertainty. So what would happen? My The advice I would have, rightfully so, is don't do anything. Stay flat. The moment that you sit up, your heart goes fast. The moment you stand up, your heart goes faster. Forget walking. So as a kid, I was consistently told not to do many things, and that was to save my life. Now you move forward, growing up, and I had the perfect reason for why I should stay sitting down, for why I should stay laying down. As a matter of fact, there were many times where I was literally tied to the bed because to move could cause a heart failure. I went through
You
two heart
were
attacks.
tied. You were tied to a bed.
Yes, because if you move, again, I'm a kid, any sudden moves could suddenly trigger this very lethal rhythms. So it wasn't because like, oh, we don't want you to do anything. It's because they were trying to save my life. So it wasn't. It was things that we even get advice. So what I'm trying to get to is like being older, even being at that time, I had every reason for why I should stay laying down. I even had the reason in my formative years to why I shouldn't do certain things. And I had a lot of very loving people that would tell me why I didn't even need to worry about doing those bigger things. Yet I can tell you, and again, it was with good intention because I'm also between life and death. So it wasn't like, we don't want you to be bigger. No, it's okay. You don't have to go to school right now because you can't breathe. So you can't stay sitting down. You're going to pass out. It's just it's too much of a liability. Again, I say that because there were many times in my life where I was giving every reason, I had every excuse not to move forward. I would have a group of people trying to save me that for my own safety would say no. And I would have to, again, in that sense, it was a decision. I went from that to being able to go to the university, to being able to own my business, to being able to train leaders worldwide, to train leaders globally. And I say that because it really started as a decision in my hospital bed of making every little movement count, understanding that every smallest action would be the greatest of intention any day. And even though I was bound by my circumstance, any small action, any way that I could engage with my environment, any way that I could control my belief was going to move me that much forward to a future I would hope I would have one day.
This is changing everything. This is beyond inspirational. I'm so grateful that you are sharing your experience because we need to hear that although most people have not had that sort of heart
Uh-huh.
condition, we all have a moment where we need to pick up our mat or at least get up and
Yes.
walk. I can share with you that a couple of months ago, I I fainted when I was recording with someone on the
Wow.
podcast. Yeah. And I felt embarrassed. I hadn't fainted in more than a decade. I I have been recording since then, but for a while I didn't want to record, and then the next time there was some life setbacks, I I had moments when I didn't want to record. I only rescheduled when I
Yeah.
really couldn't, but there's this inner feeling. I don't know if you've seen people you are guiding and leading of they're just feeling so reluctant to do the work and they're having to convince themselves to keep showing
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
So that happens
Me
a lot.
too.
You do?
Yeah. I think we've all gone through that at some point, but yeah, but go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
So when people are feeling that reluctance, is there any secret sauce in that, or do you just get up and do it anyway? Do people need to stop waiting to feel ready?
So Again, we don't learn from experience, we learn from reviewed experience. And that opportunity I got, like I said, when I was looking at the interview and I was even back in the room and revisiting what had happened, right? Like this had happened was this part. Um, and I realized that there was a pattern of how I made it through, right? Because as a kid, I don't understand what's going on. I mean, as a kid, I didn't understand the impact of the surgery I got. I not to the level it did. I didn't really even understand why this was happening, right? So it is easy, like to ask, like, "Hey, everybody else gets to do this. How come I don't? Am I ever going to?" And it wasn't something that even my caretakers could say without flat out lie. Oh yes, of course you will. One day you will, because there really was no cure in sight. Um, so I have to go back into that. What did I do to go through those moments? Like I said, I started observing a lot, and I observed what the things that the monitor, not my heart monitor, couldn't tell me, and that was a lot of the sentiment around. I could observe when people were hopeful. I could observe when people were integrous. I could observe when people, inspired and gave trust because there was a lot of trust in my story I needed to give. Um, and understood of what also results. Like even though we were gonna try something and it was risk, we really was kind of like keep the eye on the ball, right? Keep the eye on the results and regardless of what happened. So I understood that um what I was really looking at were values. So for me, even as a young age, not understanding everything, I could understand values and I could start seeing the values that people led by even in times when it was very hard. Yes, it was hard for me to go through surgeries that failed, but I know it was just as hard for the doctor who had to tell me it had failed, for the doctor that had to tell my parents that there wasn't something else, but yet the value that he had of hope to continue looking for that cure, which eventually led to finding a cure. So that was a value I got to live in my body. Outside of that, seeing the values in great leaders, which is what I have continued to see, is that sustainability really comes from living with the values, being true, not only committing to values, but living out those values. For me, I call it the heart framework. So that is hope, empowerment, accountability, results, and trust. And those were the values that I learned and I have seen consistently show up with great leaders. But outside of that, it's like, okay, so I have these values, but how do I grow in those values? And for those moments where things have been flat, moments where I feel like, oh, everything just overwhelming, like life happens. I have to go back to like this quick little method I learned even at the hospital bed, and that's called beat, just like the heartbeat. And it's called believe is for believe, the B. Um, what's here. I can't control anything, but I can control what's here, what's in my head, what's in my thoughts. Engage is I don't need one more thing, but I do need to engage with what I have. So understanding that, and that freed me from like this anxiety of like, what else do I need to get to let me take an inventory internally, around me, whatever it was, engage with it. Just engage with the environment, engage with the people I had, engage with whoever was available, with whatever was available. So engaged. So believe, engage, then act. Smallest of action. Something I learned in the hospital was that, sitting up for 10 minutes was a reason to celebrate. Being able to stand up on my own and walk around one time around the hall and not have a heart attack was a big win. So those were celebrations. Those were things that maybe at one point when I wasn't doing well, it was a dream to walk around the hallway. But learning to celebrate those now, that's not all I did. Later on, I said, I have a business, I go to university, but learning to celebrate the small actions. So taking the smallest of action, whatever that is and whatever that looks like for you today is going to impact that more of tomorrow, right? So the smallest of actions, so that's act for beat. And then transform. Is the transformation, is what I'm experiencing right now, does it align with the belief I want? Is this a transformation that I'm looking for? Is this taking me any closer? So that way I can also see my progress. So believe, engage, act, and transform. The beat method.
Beat. And part of the beat is connecting with what is in us and what is around us instead of looking for more and more. Connect with what already is.
Yes, that's right. Engage.
Engage with what there is. I appreciate that part of your acronym so much because we're in a culture where we are taught to always want more or
Um,
look for the next thing, what's
um,
happening next, instead of what's here now.
yeah. What do I have? Be grateful for what I have. What do I have and what can I give away?
Absolutely. And you mentioned the failed surgeries. That's opening my eyes so much. Was that a few of them? How did you feel going through, were you recovering from these surgeries that then didn't work? Were you physically recovering? I mean, how old were you when you were having those early surgeries?
So there was a lot of intervention in my story, right? And a lot of them came with pharmaceuticals, drugs, things like that, right? Things that to do. The more invasive of those interventions was at the time a heart cath and also an open heart surgery. Open heart surgery being like the most invasive, kind of like the thing that everybody tries to avoid, right? Like we don't want to have heart surgery, especially not when you're a kid. So, when those opportunities or, like they were presented, it was already scary, right? I mean, a hard cath was scary in itself, and especially at the time we're talking about the late 80s. There's not the technology that we have today. Is not the precision was a big question. Um, but the risks, again, you're dealing with the heart. And one of the things that they do as in with most surgeries is like they immediately test you to see if your heart would go into the abnormal rhythms or the rhythms, or we would know that the surgery worked if the heart wouldn't go into that tachycardia for a sustained amount of time, or if it wouldn't go into the abnormal heart rhythms. So that's how it was proven. Basically, you stress the heart right away and see how it responds. The same way that anybody would take a stress test. Well, not even 24 hours into that, they do the stress test and heart cath fail. And open heart now as a 12-year-old being having been cut, that stress test is done and that also failed. So now going through the same disease, but now I'm cut up essentially. My body won't be the same. And the pain that comes with that, the all the limitations that came with that, but to not get to the goal, to not get to what we would consider success. Well, for me as a kid, it was very hard. It was heartbreaking, especially because there was not like, okay, it's okay, we're gonna try this next. There was no next. The next was a heart transplant. And what did a heart transplant mean for me? It meant that a maximum 10 years if everything went well. And as long as there was no, if my body took everything. So, plus you had to have a donor, right? So it wasn't something that necessarily like, oh, yes, okay, well, let's do it tomorrow. So the relationship with that, it became not a healthy relationship even as a kid. I did not have a healthy relationship with failure. I had the pain, literally the pain of failure, the pain of lost hope. And it's something I really had to work on a lot even as I got older. Because it is hard. Now, I had the heart ablation. That one didn't fail. That was when I was 14. But I didn't take it as the success that it really was because I was still looking so much. Every day I would look at my chest, I would see failure. So it was a time where it really probably took about, yeah, over 20 years for me to get into a relationship where I learned to view on my scar, not as that moment when, do you remember a moment when this didn't work and it failed, but as a moment when look at what it took and the beauty that it took to have progress, to have this innovative surgery that not only saved me, but at the time when they told me the documentary that they did, it had saved 3,000 other kids. And if that meant me having a scar, that wasn't a sign of failure. That was actually a sign of progress.
You are teaching us to literally relate to our scars. I can only imagine. You are describing something that a lot of people could only imagine, and you were a teenager. I mean, it's hard enough being a teenager at all, and then to be feeling like that. I The only way that I can try to put myself in your shoes a tiny bit is that I had operations when I was really tiny, but it wasn't like what you are describing. However, I always had this relationship to scars, and these days I don't think people even notice my scars, and that's the other thing. Did you did you have to journey to identify as something beyond your scars and your survival? You are literally just surviving again and again.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would do everything I could to hide the scar because as soon as somebody would see it, they're like, "Ooh, what's that?" It wasn't like, "Oh, wow, how cool, you have a scar." No, it was more like, "You may wanna cover that up," or, "You got something on your chest." It's like, "Oh, yeah, it's my scar." It's like so it was, let's say that the reception of many people, especially when you're a kid, by other kids, was not one that like, "Oh, how," "that's really neat." It was almost like really received with disgust, especially when it was brand new. So I had to deal a lot with that. I mean, it's just what times would happen, and people will say, "Hey, what happened there? What was that?" So the way that I immediately had learned to live with my scar, in a sense, I wanted to hide my entire heart story. I really put it under the rug, and I honestly would not speak. I was kind of like a trivial thing. Oh yeah, 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 there was a hard thing that happened, but I'm all good now. I'm all good. I promise you, I'm fine. Don't worry about it. Did you have any heart problems? Yeah, I had 2 heart attacks. What? No, 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 no. It's okay. I'm good now. So I'm consistently what I did in my relationship with all this was to like avoidance. Let me hide my scar. Let me hide my story because what we're not gonna do here is you're not gonna look at me being weak. That's not what we're gonna do. And then I had the opportunity to go on camera, and out of all things, I gotta talk about my heart. And I'm like, "Wow, well, how neat is this? How interesting." But that's really honestly when I started seeing that and really get away from myself is
It froze up for a
you
second. There
oh,
we are.
how is it? Are you there?
So,
Okay.
so you had an opportunity to talk on camera. When did you start sharing your story, and what led you to share your truth and share your reality?
Well, it was then. It was that. It's like, wow, if the hospital thinks it's that big of a deal, it probably is. So let me take a look into it. And then I really realized it wasn't just a 20-year anniversary, but later on they featured me as part with the 100-year anniversary for the hospital. And that really meant something to me. It's like, wow, I got to be a part of history. I actually became the medical breakthrough for 1992. And it wasn't something that in any way, shape, or form I should be ashamed of. On the contrary, hey, this is good. This is a win. But I also needed that perspective, and I understand not everybody gets a chance to do that. Not everybody gets a chance to look at a painful part and say, hey, it's okay. But I think we all do get that chance to have a different perspective, to ask people that are around us to give us a perspective and be open to that. So that is one of the things that I would definitely share and make sure that that's why we need people, that we are getting different perspectives. I became strong actually the more I talked about it, and I didn't realize how much it was hurting me to try to keep this hidden from everybody else. I'm like, well, why am I even doing this? That takes energy. That just takes energy. Just be who you are. When I embraced my scar, I really was embracing me. When I embraced my story, I was really embracing my purpose, and that's why I get to do what I do today. My company is called HEARTnomics. It's all about the heart. I help organizations with their heart, their people, their standards, aligning. So it's every bit of what I do today. The very thing I tried to hide for so long.
Hannah, this is so much more inspirational than anyone could have imagined. I am so grateful that you are sharing your truth, sharing your values, and your determined energy. So much of what you are guiding people to do is to persevere, show up with what is around us, show up in our truth. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a lesson for us all. I still continue to learn that every day. And like you said, we get a lot of noise of everything that's telling you what more you need, what more you need to have, what all enough you don't. And I will tell you this, you are fully resourced with everything that you need right now. And the way that you're gonna know it is by aligning every day. Because when you do align, you realize I don't need that. And actually it probably takes more work, I would say, to get rid of things than it is to acquire things. Again, it's a bigger blessing to give than to receive. And that really applies to everything in life.
It is. How can people connect with you and learn from you?
Yeah, well, you can visit my website at heart, just like the heart, heartnomics.com. Also, if you're on LinkedIn, you can follow me on LinkedIn. And if you go in there in my website, I have a free complimentary assessment that y'all can take for heart alignment, exactly that for your leadership. And also come and join my community.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome.